Becoming insanely rich is not what most people have been told. It's not about working 80 hours a week. It's not about being from a rich family or inventing something groundbreaking. It's just 7 things that make your success almost inevitable. Hi, I'm Kennedy. I've sold more than $1 million, in fact, multiple millions of dollars of products, services, education, and I've worked with more than 9,000 paying clients. And I use my background as a psychological mind reader to understand how humans actually buy. We're going to get into these 7 different things that we need to be doing. So the first tactic that we actually need to do is we need to prioritize sales first. I'm amazed at how many people start a business, they launch into things, and they prioritize everything else. Branding, how things look, what should the name of this thing be? In actual fact, they just need sales. The longer that any of us spends time figuring out anything that's not sales, so processes and how things look and redoing your website. Like, I was speaking to an entrepreneur the other week, and she was saying, the sales are really hard right now. And I said, great, what did you do in the last week? She said, I've been really working on revamping my website. And I'm like, what's that got to do with sales? Like, it's completely the wrong thing. It's really frustrating, okay? So the very first thing we're going to do is we're going to get what I call commercial confirmation. We're going to get commercial confirmation. We're going to sell. We're going to make sure that people want to buy what we've got to sell before we do branding, before we do any marketing. There are already people in every market who want problems solved, and they want them solved right now. So we have to ask ourselves the question, great, so for the thing that I'm going to do, who is already in the level of discomfort, the level of pain, or who wants and needs what I've got? And you're going to just go and approach them. You're going to just go and make some sales. And the truth is, most people are not going to do this. Why? Because people are scared to sell. Don't think of it as selling. Think of it as, hey, you really want to get from that side of the river to that side of the river. I've got some bridges. Would you like a bridge? And when the person goes, thank God, yes, I really want the bridge. So you're going to show up and sell bridges to people who need to get to the other side of the river. And if you prioritize getting commercial confirmation before anything else, you are going to quickly figure out what people want and what they don't want. I see so many people focusing on all of the internal stuff, the marketing, the brand, the delivery, all these things, the internal stuff. And then they put the thing out for sale and it doesn't sell. The people who are winning are iterating on what to sell time and time again until they strike gold. And once they strike gold, they're mining deep. We're going to talk about how you do that a little bit later today. But we're going to prioritize getting those sales. We've got to do that, because a business that doesn't make sales isn't a business for very long. You can't continue helping people if you're out of business. In fact, you've got to make sure you've got patterns that do that. So the way we're going to do this is we're going to focus on having one, what I call conversion mechanism, and we're going to refine it. Now, your conversion mechanism is the way you make sales. That might be a sales call. In fact, for most of our offers that are $1,000 or higher, it's always start of the sales call. We might pivot to a different conversion mechanism later, but it starts with a sales call. Why? Because I get to get on the call, and and even at my level and stage of business and life, I still do the first 10 to 20 sales calls myself. Because I want to get on the call and see, like, really see somebody on a Zoom call. This is what they love. This is the part of the offer they're really excited about. This is what they're really struggling with. And this is the things that they actually are objecting to. This is the part of what we're talking about which they're objecting to. And also, the most valuable bit is, here's the part that they just don't mention. They're just beige to this person. They're just not emotionally responding to at all. I want to know all that information. And we do that through the sales call. So we're going to get really good at one conversion mechanism. I see a lot of people saying, hey, I'm doing really good sales calls. I'm also now going to add in a webinar. I'm going to get a sales video made. I'm going to get a sales page made. I'm also going to do a 5-day challenge. And I'm like, okay, so you're going to do like 5 or 6 things poorly, 4 out of 10, not very good, and get 4 out of 10 conversions out on everything. And for every single one of those things, you're going to have to build the whole thing, refine the whole thing, write the whole thing, publish the whole thing, then drive lots of traffic to the whole thing. That just seems insane. Instead, I want you to focus on just one conversion mechanism. If you're going to do a webinar, go all in on making that webinar absolutely brilliant, and make it convert like crazy. Only once it is converting, only once it's converting predictably over time, do you then even think about adding in that next conversion mechanism. So I want you to think about just one. It's about simplifying, right? You want to just have one thing that turns that person into a buyer, right? So focus on one conversion mechanism, really refine it. And the other thing I want you to do is always have some kind of sales-focused action in your calendar. Every single day that you're working, there should be something on your calendar which brings in sales. I'm amazed at how many entrepreneurs I speak to and say, what did you do today that could bring you sales? And they're like, oh, well, I was busy doing, and literally anything else. And my answer is, dude, you need you some sales. That's what you need right now. So make sure we're doing things that are actually bringing in sales every single day. Like literally, there is a block on your calendar and you have to go, I'm going to do something that's going to make a sale today. Because if you do that, you never have a sales problem again. Because you become this habit of always having something that brings in sales. That's your number one job, bring in sales. Okay. Tactic number two, thing number two is to solve a big problem. Okay, so if you're going to make a great amount of money, create financial freedom and more choice for yourself and your family, you need to always be solving and giving more value than you ever charge. The way that I look at it is I want to be delivering 10 times more value than we ever charge for anything. So if we're going to charge $10,000 for something, I want to make sure that we're doing it for something that can get somebody 100 grand in results, in return, right? So one of the things you can do is you can copy this prompt, get my head out of the way. You can copy this prompt that I put together. Just pause the video. You can copy that prompt, and what that's going to do is it's going to ask you a couple of questions about what are your skills already? What skills have you already got? Put them all in there. What are you interested in? It's going to ask you one or two extra questions, and then it's going to check for what is the commercial viability? What other things within your skills that people will pay you for? What kind of big problems could you solve and who could you solve them for? That's the question I want to be asking yourself. Luckily, that prompt does it all for you. Just stick it into your favorite AI and it'll actually look at the market. Really important things, though, when you're doing that. One, it has to just use the skills you've got. Secondly, it has to be a big pain point in the market, because the bigger the pain point, the more someone is going to pay for it. And finally, and this is the bit that lots of people forget, is there have to be enough people who have that problem. In proper marketing, it's called the TAM, the total addressable market. And it's basically how many people are possibly going to buy this thing. That's one of the things, like if you're solving a very rare disease, it's going to be difficult to make significant money in that because there's not a lot of people to buy. I experienced that in my very first business where I was coaching other entertainers, magicians, comedians, all that kind of stuff on how to grow their businesses. And the total addressable market of people who actually want to do that as a career is very, very small. So that's the reason I actually had to get really good at converting more of that market. The much easier option is to make sure there is a boatload of people who actually want to solve that problem. So that's all built into that prompt. If you want to just go back and pause that part of the video, no problem at all. That's what I would do. The next thing we want to do, thing number 3, is we want to maximize the existing buyer spend. One of the hardest things we all do within a business, whatever type of business I'm working with, is the toughest thing, the most effort is put into attracting brand new customers. In fact, in the large sort of marketing businesses, the best copywriters, offer creators, the best minds are always in the new customer acquisition department. They're not in the how do we get people to spend more money department. Because the hardest thing we ever do as a business is get somebody to spend money with us for the very first time. Because after they've done that, they've now seen, oh, I get good results, or it's a good experience, this person's not a scammer. And they've also changed their identity with you as being a customer of yours, not just a watcher of your content. So they're 60% or more likely to buy from you again. So if the first sale's the hardest, we need to absolutely make sure that once someone has bought from us, we have offers where they can buy more from us. They can get more support and they can get more insight, maybe more personalization. And in exchange for that, we charge higher prices. So we want to make sure you've always got premium offers for our top buyers, because there's always 1 to 5% of anyone's audience who will spend significantly more. And I'm talking 10 times more. So if whatever your offers are right now, take a look at it and go, cool, if I had a 0 to the end of that, making it 10 times more, that could be my premium price. That between 1 and 5% of my entire audience will be interested in buying. And start putting that out as an offer. Now, there's 2 different types of offer that you want to make sure that you're making in order to make this work. One of them is that you want to increase how much somebody spends right now when they're buying. You'll have seen this if you bought anything on the internet in the last 10 years. It's where you buy one thing and then on the very next page, it says, hey, do you want to click this button and buy another thing? It might be more of that thing. If it was a supplement, they often do it, but you buy a supplement on the front end for hair loss. And then on the very next page, you see it says, hey, do you want to buy a bundle of 5 more bottles of these pills? In a lot of digital products, as you buy the front end thing on the next page, is like, hey, do you want to buy this bigger program or this course or join our membership? So right there in that moment, we're increasing how much people spend. The second bit, and this is the bit to really not be sniffed at and really not be ignoring, is to make sure that we increase the number of repeat purchases that somebody has going forward. So how often do they come back and actually buy more stuff from you? How many more times do they come back and start a brand new order? And so think about what are the offers you could be making to people who've already bought to get them to buy again. And that's one of the decisions we make every single month, is I want you to be thinking, great, what we're doing this month in order to get someone to buy for the first time who's never bought before. And the second thing we're going to do is what can we do for people who've already bought something to have them buy something else from us? If we do those 2 things, you are immediately making significantly more wealth, significantly more income, significantly more sales, which is what we all want, right? We're adding more into the bank. Okay, thing number 4, if I find the right button to press here. Thing number 4 is funnel width and depth. My head's in the way. But funnel width and depth. So one of the mistakes people make, in fact, I'm going to do a little doodle to explain this. Let's do it this way. One of the things that people have done forever is we've all been taught that when we're marketing, like say running ads or doing a free gift or something like that, we should always start off with identifying who our ideal customer is going to be and then come up with content that's going to attract just them. The problem with that is, while that worked for a very, very long time, because of the way that advertising has changed, that no longer is as effective. Because if you have a really, really focused customer avatar and the thing you're trying to get people to buy is really narrow, you're going to pay a lot of money to get those buyers. You're actually better, rather than having a funnel that looks like this and then they come in, people come into the top of here, and then they buy something. Rather than doing that, that's the best drawing you've ever seen, isn't it? And rather than having any of that, what we have to do now, which has completely changed, is we're going from this type of funnel to this type of funnel. And what I mean by that is, your ideal customer is this person, but they exist within a broader marketplace, within a much broader scheme of people, right? So let's say in my world that I teach my ideal customer is a person who wants to make more sales from their email marketing. In the last few months, we have changed our marketing from just talking about email marketing to talking to the whole market of people who have an online course, who are a coach, who have a membership, and solving their problems, who have a done-for-you service or an agency. Okay? Because within that market, which is a much big hopper of people at the top, lots more people in that phase, there are a bunch of people who will filter down into my ideal customer. And anyone who's not doing this now, those are the people who are experiencing significant costs in acquiring new customers because they're only targeting their ideal customer. But here is the really critical part. We have to put stuff in place so that this bit on its own is actually commercially viable. What I mean by that is this bit has to be break even or profitable even before they get into ideal customer land. So what that means is, in practical sense, if in the past, so if we do the before picture, in the past, I would run an ad to an offer about email marketing. The problem with that is the cost of doing that has gone up so much, it's actually not sustainable, okay, because of the cost of ads. What we're going to do now is we're going to run ads to things that help our ideal market, and we're going to have a whole funnel. So we're going to help the ideal market with, hey, how to grow your coaching business, right? Kind of like what you're watching right now, how to grow your coaching business. And they're going to buy something, and we're going to have a whole funnel. We're going to have another upsell. We're going to have another upsell. And by the end of that, we're going to be in profit. That means what we're actually doing is generating the 10 to 20% who drop into the ideal customer pool for free, right? So when we adopt this model instead, we end up creating prospects for our ideal customer completely for free. That is a huge change that's happened in just the past few months that we all need to be looking at. And I call that one funnel depth and flexibility. You're going to start really wide, bring in lots of leads, and then you're going to go deeper. The other thing we absolutely have to do with this model is make sure that the depth of the funnel is deeper. So yes, in the past, people might have offered $47 a month memberships, but that again is no longer a viable method. So we have to go deeper again and say, cool, we're also going to have a $997 self-study program. And then we're going to go deeper again and say, hey, we're also going to have a $10,000 to $25,000 premium offer. What then happens is huge amounts of profit happen here because of the depth of that. And this is all just that thing we talked about earlier, which has given people the opportunity to actually spend more with you, to actually come back more often and spend more. All right? Awesome. So that's your funnel depth and flexibility. The next thing we're going to look at is what I call the rich lifestyle. I read this book, and I've never disagreed with the book more. I read this book called The Millionaire Next Door, and then I talked to some friends who are extremely wealthy, much more wealthy than I am. And I talked to them about this book called The Millionaire Next Door. The Millionaire Next Door teaches this concept that you want to be the millionaire next door. And that means you want to kind of live frugally now and not buy that fancy car and not buy that fancy house. And you want to put it all into savings so that later you're going to have all this wealth built up because of compound interest and all these fancy wealth building things. The problem with that is, one, it's really demotivating to do that and you're not rewarding yourself as you go. And secondly, none of us know how long we're going to live. I want to live my life now. I don't want to get back to a place I was 20 years ago when I felt like I was constantly dissatisfied in this moment, feeling completely miserable because I'm constantly working towards a thing that's on the horizon, that's in the distance, and I'm never there. It's like a mirage in the desert that you never get to, and you end up completely in a drought and dried out and dead. That's where I was. I was like, I'm constantly looking for the next goal. Instead, I want to live really presently. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a lifestyle that actually aligns your business model with your ideal level of flexibility. And what I mean by that is I want you to make sure that you actually are living a wealthy and rich day-to-day life. I don't mean you're having caviar for breakfast and you're being served grapes by someone wearing a toga or something like that. None of that. What I mean by that is you're doing stuff that makes you really happy and appreciate your success while you're on the journey. You don't need to drive a clapped out old Ford across Texas because you know at the other end of the journey there's going to be a fantastic mansion, because you're going to bloody hate the car's going to break down, the journey's going to be miserable. So honestly, the paradise at the end of it, you won't even appreciate that much. You would just appreciate a glass of water and actually some air conditioning. I want to make sure that on the journey we're enjoying ourselves. So build a lifestyle. So you're going to align, one of the things you can do is you look at your flexibility, aligning that model with the flexibility. So if you know that you like to be able to just go this afternoon, hey, I've seen a good hotel I want to go and stay at for a week, and you can just book it. If that's what your lifestyle is, you have to make sure the business model, the deliverables that you promise people actually align with that from the beginning. So there's two ways of doing that. One is, hey, I want to be able to just be completely flexible and do what I want when I want. If you want complete flexibility to do with location as well, like if that's what it looks like, you either need a program that you're delivering that has no live calls, where you don't actually need to be anywhere at a particular time, or where you're happy to do the live calls from your laptop on the balcony of your apartment when you're in some beautiful place like Portugal. I've gone for that option. I like to do live calls with clients, so I have it so that they all understand that, hey, sometimes I'm going to be on my balcony in my apartment in Jamaica when I'm doing the class. And they're like, this is cool, because it's aspirational to people to see you live in that lifestyle. The other thing I want you to do is think about fitting your work style and when you do different types of work with your different energy points of the day, right? So, for example, I'm the most creative and I have my best ideas first thing in the morning. I wake up full of ideas. I'm a complete nightmare to live with, right? Because I'm like out of bed on things straight away. I don't like lie there and doze and wake up slowly. I'm like straight into it. And then in the afternoon, I'm like not as energetic. So that's why I have my day, so that I do the stuff that requires me to be creative and energetic in the morning, and then stuff that's just more administrative and, putting numbers in boxes or something that doesn't take so much creativity in the afternoon. Look at what your energy levels are to make sure that your energy fuel is being used correctly to fuel that success, right? The big lesson of this point is really look at what living richly means right now, not just in the future. One of mine, for example, is one of my definitions of living richly is to be able to go out for lunch. So every Friday, pretty much, I'm out for lunch, because the fact that I have the freedom, the flexibility to sit and have as long a lunch I want on a Friday makes me go, this is the life that I want. This is the way to do it. Right? So, and another thing, so one of the things we have to do is make sure we do those things. Another great lifestyle tip is that you want to make sure you prioritize building your business over all of the client work you do. And I know that sounds like really selfish, but it's a bit like on a plane when you get that safety announcement, put your own mask on before helping others. The reason is I speak to so many people who are like, oh, I'm just haven't got any work this month because I was so busy last month. And I had that exact experience when I was a gigging entertainer traveling around the world speaking at conferences, and I'm working for people like Mercedes-Benz and for Mars and for Yahoo and all these big companies. It's really intense work doing all these product launches for them and all these entertainment gigs at their conferences. And I would find that I would go through September and October, which was really busy conference season, and I would be so busy doing like 40 gigs across those 2 months. And then I would get to November and have pretty much nothing in. And I would look at my calendar for the next 6 to 12 months and it would be quiet. Why? Because I was so busy delivering the product, the service, in this case, entertaining, but for all of us, the things that we do, that I didn't have and I didn't make any time to make sure I was continuing to fill my future pipeline. So that's the reason we want to make sure that every day we are doing something for our business, and we're doing it before we do delivery, before we do the stuff that we need to do for our clients. We're going to put our own mask on first. So my personal rule is, because I work really well, my energy is really good first thing in the morning, I get up at like 5:30 in the morning and I start working at about 6:30, 7 o'clock. So from 7 o'clock until 11 a.m., I am working on our business. I'm working on stuff that's going to get us more sales, that's going to improve our reach, that's going to be the strategy of our business. I'm doing the stuff to build our business. So that's why I have all the rules in my calendars where people can book calls with me, where there are no booking slots for meetings with me before 11 a.m. The other thing I have is, so that means I can always do the work on our business first. The other thing I have is I have no meetings on Fridays. There's no booking slots for meetings with me on Fridays because that allows me to do the deep work. If I need to do a bigger project, if I'm writing an entire marketing plan or a sales funnel or a new offer, I'm going to do that on a Friday because I want a full day. And I highly recommend this where you have one of your working days where it is meetingless, completely no meetings allowed. Just turn the availability off on your calendar booking system. The reason I recommend you do that is because when you're in flow with something, maybe you're writing a new sales page, right? Just take that as an example. You know what it's like? It takes you a while to get in flow. It feels really janky at the beginning. But once you're in flow, oh my God, the words are just flying out the ends of your fingers. It's amazing. But the worst thing in the world for that is you having to I'm just checking the clock because I've got a meeting at 5 o'clock or 3 o'clock or 2 o'clock. I need to make sure I don't miss that meeting. That's going to kill flow. That completely kills your flow. So we're going to have a whole day where you can just be like, boom, I'm in this. And some days, the beautiful thing about that is some of those Fridays, there is no big project. And guess what you do? You chill the hell out because we didn't give up the 9 to 5 to work the 24/7, which is I see so many people busting a good doing. Have a 4-day week. Why the hell would you work for yourself if you couldn't do that? All right? Okay. Number 6 is cash versus wealth. Here's a brutal truth that not many people want to hear. And that is making sales is not going to make you wealthy. I really mean it. And it took me far too long to realize this. And I would love to pass this on to every single one of you. In fact, it was this idea that gave me the idea for this entire video. This is the thing I wanted to share with you. So please listen really carefully because you've made it this far through the video. Easy for me to say. So here's the idea. Making sales is one of those things that requires your energy. And every time you put energy in, you're going to get more out of it. And growing this business of yours, your coaching business, your marketing business, your membership, your coaching, your courses, whatever you're doing, that requires sales. I don't know about you, but I've had days in the past few years where I'm like, I'm so tired. I'm so very tired. I'm tired of making sales and I don't want to have to do this till I'm 80. Like I'm 42 now and I'm 42 this summer. And I don't want to make sales forever. And the truth is, sales don't really compound. Like they're very much like we're making a sale, we'll move on to the next sale, make the next sale, get a person to buy more stuff. That's fine. We're increasing value there. But what we actually are going to create wealth from is not sales, is not cash. What we want to do is, and I wish I'd heard this earlier, I wish someone had said this to me earlier, but I figured it out and I've got to share this with you. I really believe, and this is not financial advice, I'm not qualified in anything at all, right? So please seek a professional on this. But what I really believe is going to make me the most wealthy is using my education business to generate cash that I then put into investments. Generate the cash using this business and fund investments with them. And that's why you're going to invest in pensions, retirement, ISAs, whatever it is in your country, and use those vehicles, those financial vehicles to actually create wealth. And by shifting that, I know that in 10 years or 20 years time, I won't need to work, make sales, create products or services. If I want to fill my days, I can. But I'll no longer be stuck in that cycle of, okay, what are we doing this quarter to bring in the numbers? We're going to create this hugely valuable asset in our financial freedom. So the big thing we really need to do is get really good at understanding ways of tax efficiently, legally, and ethically putting money into our future so that we can so we're investing now so that we've got great wealth in the future. I don't know if you know this, but Warren Buffett, who a lot of people say is the best investor of all time, actually, statistically speaking, has not done the best investment picks of anyone in history. He has not done that. But he is the wealthiest. Why? Because he invested earlier, he's had his money in the funds getting all that compounding interest for the longest amount of time. That's how he's done it. So we want to get in that game as soon as possible. So that's this rule. Before we get into number 7 is use this business to generate cash that you then go and put into investments which will create the wealth. That's how you actually get rich and free. Number 7 is scale yourself. I speak to so many coaches and course creators and educators like us who are passionate about what you do, and you end up exhausted, worn out. And the reason that happens is they're trying to do everything. And in trying to do everything, they're also dropping the ball. They're missing opportunities. They're creating more customer service. And the answer is so simple. You are going to scale yourself through some really simple automation. Really simple automation. Every email marketing and CRM platform can do this. You are going to automate the repetitive tasks to make sure that you can have consistent results. And this works in 2 ways. One, you'll actually make more money that you can then use for the wealth practices we talked about earlier. But also, you will not be as exhausted. It's more predictable. It works hands off. So, for example, if your business relies on you manually telling people about the next offer they could buy once they've enrolled in one program, that's not a good situation, because if you're sick one week, or you're off on holiday one week, or you're taking care of your kids one week, or something's going on with your parents or your family, then that's probably not going to happen. Whereas if after someone's bought item A, 3 days later, they always get an SMS or an email, or ideally both, that tells them about the next thing that they could be doing, and the next thing they could be buying from you, and that happens whether you're on holiday or you're sat by your parents' bedside in hospital, whatever's going on, those emails are going out, those upsells are happening. 3 days after they buy the thing, come hella high water, no matter what's going on, you are gonna make those sales, and you're going to make them predictably the same time every single time. Same with onboarding clients. If you're manually onboarding clients and making sure they're in that system and doing that and sending them that email, and if that's happening every single time, again, there are holes people can drop through, which creates more customer support costs, more customer support time. It gets the customer to be a little bit unhappy, which means they're more likely to have asking for a refund, or at very least not getting great results from what you do and what you teach them. If you're doing invoices and sending out contracts, you should not be manually following up on, hey, you should pay your invoice, hey, please sign your contract, right? We shouldn't be doing that. That should all be automated, because now you're going to end up with more people paying their invoices on time and more people signing their contract. And again, it doesn't rely on you looking at your already email inbox and going, oh yeah, I need to chase those people. You're going to move people through these pipeline stages automatically. You're going to notice when someone's paying interest. You need to have stuff set up, automation. So when people, hey, this person has checked out my sales page or my call booking page 3 times in the last 30 days. That person's showing a degree of interest. We don't want to be manually trying to figure that out. We want to have automated systems in place, which are so simple to do these days, where it's gone, oh, that person's done that thing, I'm going to kick off this automation. When you do that, it means it doesn't matter what's going on in your life, 3 days after they've done that, this other thing happens. Not relying on you having to notice it, and sometimes it happens after 3 days, sometimes it happens after 5 days. The result you're going to get from following up with someone 3 days later is going to be completely different to the result you're going to get by following up with them 5 days later. One will be better than the other, and you're going to figure out which one it is, and you're going to automate it so it always happens at that point. Also, if you're doing it manually, there's human error where you might say something differently each time. You might say one thing to one person and that works, and you might say something slightly differently the next time to the other person and doesn't work quite as well. Whereas if the whole thing is automated, you're always saying the same thing to those people at the right time, at the same time every single time, then it becomes predictable. And that allows you to measure it and improve it. And that's the next point on this, which is you want to review and optimize those automations regularly so that you are fine-tuning them to get the best results. So now what you're doing is you're building a scalable, predictable machine which frees up your time. And it doesn't matter now whether you've got 10 clients coming in a month or 100 clients coming in a month. It doesn't break. They're not waiting. You're not overwhelmed because the automations are taking it. They're taking care of it all. So you're freeing your time and you're multiplying your impact. In fact, if you want to see the exact system I use to multiply my impact and bring the sales in at scale, check out this next video. I'll see you there.